net. I'm now going to play a trailer, and we played this once before, and it's a documentary called The Pipe. And I know Amy Goodman did a documentary called Drilling and Killing about the pipeline in Nigeria. And we've here at WBAI covered a lot of the environmental problems that happen around the world, and how these multinationals, I mean, our own thing down in the Gulf of Mexico with BP, how they go in and they make all these huge promises, and how the world is going to be saved by this corporation by exploiting and draining the resources from that part of Ireland, and how everybody's going to benefit from it. Well, one of the people in the forefront of trying to stop that pipeline that's in Mayo is Pat O'Donnell, who lost his livelihood at one stage with his fishing boat being sunk. He was jailed for 5 months. Plenty of protests that went on, even outside the prison at one stage when Pat was inside. And we're going to play the trail, and we'll come back. We'll be speaking to the one and only Pat, who's been on the phone many times from Mayo to WBAI, but we have him in the studio today.
That's what they did at the beginning. They came telling us what they were going to do. They never asked us at any stage for permission.
The more you see wrong being done, the more angry you get.
We wouldn't be doing this if we thought it was just a noble cause and a heroic failure.
It's pretty much forcing everybody's hand.
I have a right to be here. This is where I've been all my life.
If we don't act now, we'll regret it forever.
I have an awful lot at stake here. There's no sense to this, and you know that. It'll never be the same. Never, never. It has a mark left in the community that will never be new. I'm going nowhere.
The negotiation is over. The rule of law has to be implemented.
You could only see danger.
This is Shell's law.
Blood cops, blood money.
You that try to make criminals out of us or to make people.
What area? This is my area. It's the sadness that gets to you.
Your last chance to show that we are reasonable people.
Do you think that I'd let a shell worker onto my property?
I feel you're being watched every move you make.
Never. Never out.
And that last bit there was Maura Harrington, I think, speaking Irish at a meeting there, and it could be interpreted as something else, but she was speaking Gaelic. Mike, you've spoken to her many times in Gaelic, and that was Irish?
Well, yes. It
Yeah,
was
all right,
something
thank you.
more
I got that verified by a
absolutely,
linguist.
it was Irish.
Yes.
The perfect Irish.
I'm looking at a Facebook, Pat O'Donnell, and it says, about Pat. Pat O'Donnell's a fisherman from County Mayo. His opposition to the carb gas project has led him to receiving beatings, the sinking of his fishing boat by terrorists, and the jailing by the state for 5 months. His personal interest, keeping Mayo fishing grounds clean and sustainable for future generations. Pat, thanks for coming on. Maybe you can give us your background, where you're from in Mayo, and about how you got involved with fishing.
Yeah, a small little village in North Mayo called Portland. That's where I was born, and started fishing at a young age, 14, 15. My father was fishing, my grandfather. So I'd be the 4th generation fisherman, and my 2 sons are at it now. So it's been handed down more or less, like it's a tradition. It's a way of life.
Is it a good livelihood? I mean, can you make money fishing?
You can make a living fishing, John. The type of fishing we do, like, is small boats and short trips, maybe 24-hour trips to sea. So you'll never get rich from it, but at the same time, you'll make a living and educate your kids and that.
And what's the size of the boat? Because I go back and forth to Donegal, and I go up to Killybegs, and I see the size of the ships that are coming in from maybe Russia or from Spain or even from the UK, and they're called fish factories. They're gigantic, where everything is done within the boat itself. Do you get that type of fishing in your area?
Oh, no. We'd have small 40-foot boats, 10 to 12-metre boats, and we'd have to come ashore, and we're limited then to the weather that we can fish. Any weather force 6, 7, you wouldn't be able to go to sea because of the dangers. So them trawlers you've seen in Killybegs and that, and along the coast, they're a result of us joining the EU. We had a good exclusion zone along our coastal protection, like. They'd have to keep outside 200 miles in the old days. But when we joined the EU, the Spanish, the French, the Danish, the Dutch, all these boats can come up to 6 miles off our shores, you know, and take our fish. We gave that away when we joined the EU in return for nothing.
And Paddy, we're having a huge problem here with depleting all the fishing grounds, which has been fished out. Because just the kind of factory fishing that we were talking about, are you having that problem there?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's massive overfishing going on by member states of the European Union. You know, it's not alone just the Irish fishermen that's overfishing. It's a European problem. It's a world problem, I believe.
What's the problem here?
Yeah, well, the way we do it, like the stocks would be 100% safe because the weather would keep control over us. We have a small, you know, it's a way of life. It's a tradition.
Well, Pat, you know, that was all fine, and you were doing fine, and would you tell us where it all went wrong? Not just the fishing, but I was there a couple of times, you know, I met you guys over there, and besides the environment thing, it is the last remaining place, as far as I know, and certainly in Europe, absolutely pristine. It is a crime to bring in that. There was never any need to bring it in there. To bring in that pipe and to all that surrounds it. You're going to have the killing and drilling like in Nigeria, spills and so on and so forth, being forced on the people. You were fishing and all of a sudden your life changed.
Pat, what was the reaction to the community when it was first discovered? Because I know there was great hullabaloo. Oh my God, Ireland will be energy sufficient. I mean, what was the reaction to the people in Mayo saying, maybe this is a good thing that they're putting in this pipe? Or did people cop on right away that there was going to be problems?
No, I would have been one of the people that was happy about the find. I didn't know anything about oil and gas and the pollution it brings to areas. But I thought first we get a lot of jobs out of this, that and the other, and it'd be good for the country. But when I learned that we gave it all away,
Now, what do you mean we gave it all away? What happened with the contract, and what did the government sign with Shell?
Well, what they've signed with Shell is the Irish people, the rightful owners of our oil and gas, gets nothing, absolutely nothing. It was all, we'll say for instance, Shell, this particular find, the Corrib gas, the one we're fighting, there's the developer is Shell, they have about 48% or 51% or something. Then you have Statoil, the Norwegian company, oil company. So, and there's an American company, Éireann, and them three companies own 100% of the field. Our state owns nothing. All we're banking on is getting 12.5% corporation tax back to the Irish people. But that will never happen because the amount of money they have spent there, they'll write it off in taxes. So there'll be no gain at all for the Irish people. Could you imagine the Norwegian people benefiting through hospitals, through infrastructure, through whatever, with our gas? And the Irish people,
they get 17%.
Yeah, the Irish kids they're forced to leave Ireland to Australia, to Canada, to the US, where they're illegal. They're watching over their shoulders all the time when they come here. So it could be all so different. I was at a march in Dublin last week against austerities. There's no need for austerities in Ireland at all. If we only had our oil and gas, we'd be like Norway, one of the wealthiest countries in Western Europe. But we didn't do it right. We wanted the oil companies in. They bluffed their way through. You know, from Ray Burke, who was done the first damage to the. We had a 51% of it in the beginning, back in Justin Keating with the Labour Party, back in Fine Gael Labour, back in the 70s. But then you have Ray Burke. I think it was in '93. He brought it down to 25%. And he himself, Ray Burke, spent time in jail on other corrupt charges. He spent 3 or 4 months in
you're not blaming this on Ray Burke. Didn't pull this off on his own. I know.
Well, Bertie Ahern made other changes to the deals. You know?
The bottom line is you get nothing. The state gets nothing. So why? Who gave it away?
Well, Irish politicians, like, for their own benefit.
Down
Down through the generation, down
this-
to
this
successive
corrupt-
governments, even whatever Shell wants today, whatever the oil companies want in Ireland today, the Irish state provides. The Irish government have criminalised the local community
How do you
at the behest of Shell.
But Shell has an offshore well, right? Tell us how they're planning to bring the gas in and what the consequences of that are.
Well, it's costing billions and billions of euros to bring this gas ashore by the oil companies. So you could imagine the amount of wealth that's along our coast when they're willing, to criminalise a community that didn't want the thing in the first place, because when we found out how bad it would be.
And what made you an activist? Here you are fishing 4 generations, and now you're in the forefront of something that was put upon you. What made you into the activist in Mayo? Now it's almost like fishermen, you're part-time fishermen, full-time activists, going to jail. You can even explain what they did to your boat out in I was going to say the loch, but out in the Atlantic. How did you become the activist then?
Well, we had no choice. We were left with no choice. You see, when we made objections, when we put in submissions to Mayo County Council, the Department of the Marine, they all let us down. They just didn't take note of what the people wanted. Whatever Shell or the oil companies wanted, they got. And the local people were ignored. So we were left with no alternative but to protest for, hope that the Irish people would realise the loss that was here when we learned that there was no gain to the Irish people. But yet, the Irish people are slow. They're slow to come out on the streets and come out and support. For some reason, I don't know. Like if you take Greece, for instance, they have got a great deal now from the IMF. They're in the downward trend with the last 3 or 4 years.
And your livelihood was jeopardized. What happened to your boat? Because in your Facebook, you're saying that it was destroyed by terrorists. Now, most people here in this country, it's Arabs, it's Hamas, it's this. Who are the terrorists that you're describing off the coast of Mayo that sank your boat?
Well, there was one night I was protecting my gear. Shell was, they were about to put down the pipe, and we got word that they were to shift my gear. And so I had to stay
Your
out.
gear is your pots.
My crab pots, yeah, they were in their way, so they were
In
offering,
Broadhaven Bay, right?
That's correct, yeah. They were offering me money to move the gear, so I didn't accept their money. I didn't move the gear, and one night, late at night, I was boarded from a rib. With four men came aboard with wetsuits and masks, and 2 of them held us at gunpoint in the wheelhouse, where 2 more of them went down into the engine room and scuppered the boat. So they left. And,
How did you get off the boat then?
we had a small little dinghy, small little life raft, and it was up on top of the wheelhouse. It was covered with net and rope at the time. It was, so they mustn't have seen it. And when they left, then the boat, the engine stopped. A few minutes after they left, we got onto the life raft.
So Pat, it looks like they intended to kill you.
Well, that was the intention. They'd say, all right, it didn't happen, thank God.
And was it ever investigated? Had anyone been arrested?
Yeah, the guys
and what
were-
are the theories
Yeah,
about
there's
this?
nobody investigated. Nobody arrested. We were We were terrorised ourselves by the local police as if we sank our own boat.
So nothing's ever been done on this?
No, absolutely.
And were you covered by insurance or anything like that?
There was insurance on the boat, but the insurance wouldn't cover it because in the small print it was said they wouldn't cover terrorist attacks.
Of a small fishing boat. I mean, and that's pretty cute that they can even envision that to put that into a contract. I mean, for an insurance company to come up with that.
It's in most of the contracts, the nuclear spills, all that kind of stuff, and small print that you don't really read until it comes to the...
Until your boat's blown up.
Yeah.
So your history with the Garda Síochána, this Irish, the state police force, obviously you had a lot of run-ins with them on the picket line, and I know that, and Maura and a whole lot of you actually got brutalised quite. I was talking to Terry, was Conway, all of you guys got, and these were, you went to school with some of them.
Absolutely, yeah. Some of the guards, like, we have known all our life. Some of the policemen there, and
It's amazing.
so
They
so
just
sad that
turned.
that you know, that they turned against their own people and beat their own people. And I would have been one of them that ended up with 3 broken ribs. You know, and my teeth was knocked out with the batons and kicks and, you know, all for the oil companies. You know, they turned against their own people. That's the sad part about it. You know, we ended up in a hospital a few times.
and the communities divided, split.
Or the community divided, split.
Now, what's the divide?
The divide is people that's working in the site, you know, that think that we're the bad people to be protesting, but they don't realise that it was, you know, through protest that Shell started hiring and buying the local people to turn them against each other. So that's the way it happens all over the world. Like.
They're good at that. But
Yeah.
I mean, getting back to the money. Now, the big thing is there's a book out by the Dublin Shelltosea called Liquid Asset. It's a 44-page manual that details all of the fines and the future fines about the assets around all of Ireland that belongs to the Irish people. In the meantime, you're closing hospitals, you're forcing people to live under the bridges of New York. You don't let them home to vote. This is going on, and the whole economy is going into the toilet. And Shell, Statoil gets 17% from Norway. Shell gives nothing. And it's not Ray Burke. Come on. It just wasn't Ray Burke. The corruption is deeper than that.
Yeah, well, Ray Burke started the ball rolling, so it was down Bertie and the whole lot played a part in it. Down to this present day, I believe there's deals and wheeling going on with the oil companies.
Well, Pat, tell us, when your boat was attacked, nobody wound up in jail, but you wound up in jail. How did you wind up in jail?
I wound up in jail on two public order offences. No evidence to back up the charges, just the word of a policeman against me in a court, and a senior judge believed the word of a guard. And along with that, he called me a thug and a bully when he was putting me into jail.
And how long were you in for?
I got 7 months prison sentence. I served 5 months 1 week as a criminal. So it's,
And you're not the only leader of Shelltosea that's been...
no, there's been about, I'd say between all, there's about 30 or 40 people jailed. Teachers, Maura Harrington being one of them, teachers, fishermen, farmers, you know, people that was
A real rogues gallery.
people that was never in front of a judge, never in a courtroom in their lives, including myself, never had a parking ticket, and yet ended up in jail.
As a criminal.
As a criminal, yeah.
And how were you treated in jail?
Oh, very good. Like the prisoners respected me for what I stood for, and the prison officers, most of the prison staff. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
the
they
with
saw
all
you more or
respect-
less as a political prisoner. You weren't an
Yeah.
ODC, ordinary decent criminal.
I would have been treated as, but I'd be treated the same as the rest. Like when I went into jail first, I asked the governor. You know, I went down to see the governor the first day after. I said I wanted to be treated the same as the rest of the prisoners, no less or no better. You know, the exact same, and that's the way it was.
And were you hearing about any of the other protests and everything? Because I know we marched with a banner. Mike brought it down to the St. Pat's for All parade here in Queens. And we had Randy Credico, who was running for office at that time, holding up the banner, and Brendan Fay allowing the banner to be marched because it would
Right.
never have gotten into the Fifth Avenue parade. But at the St. Pat's for All in Queens, there was a big banner in support of you, and I understand it made it onto the front page of the Mayo papers that, you know, people in New York were marching. Were you hearing about other different protests that were going on around?
Oh yeah, that particular one you're talking about, John. Someone in my family sent in a picture of the flag, of the banner. That was printed on the local Western People, the local Mayo news there, and that was sent into the...
That was up, Maggie Traynor had it up in Rockland County, probably. By the way, Maggie was on a protest outside Castlereagh while you were inside with Maura Harrington on them. So the world, Mayo woman, so it's a small world in a way, you know, but it's an incredible story. They're incredible people. You have to see, you have to almost go there to see it, to believe what they put up with. And they're still, right away, 13th year. Next year is the 13th year of Maura Harrington sitting in the big bucket and wouldn't get out of it, and it's still there. God bless them, they're still going.
And Pat, where are we now with this? Is there a pipeline? Where does the pipeline go through? I understand they want the refinery to be in Mayo, or is it going to be off the coast? What is the position now that's going on?
Well, the position is now they're starting to tunnel under the estuary, under an SAC, a special area conservation.
Beautiful.
You know, that the ordinary people cannot cut turf to heat their houses in this area. You know, special area conservation. But yet, the oil companies can drill it, violate it, do whatever they want with an SAC. It's handed to them in a plate by the Irish state. But where is it at? The refinery is built in the middle of the parish. That's where they'll be cleaning the gas. And there's a discharge pipe going into Broadhaven Bay. And there's a high pressure pipe coming all the way 70 kilometres offshore into the refinery. And John, you know, my worst fears was realised while I was in jail. You know, when being a fisherman, when the disaster took place down off the Gulf of Mexico with BP. That happened in 2010 when I was inside in jail. And they were all my fears, and I still have them fears. You know, when the fishing industry was closed down in Louisiana and all that, I felt for those fishermen, because if that happened to us and happened to my sons and people that wants to keep fishing, you know, that wouldn't take Shell's money, that's devastating. That's a way of life finished with, and that's why I have protested. That's why I've ended up in jail, because I will not ever consent to what Shell is doing in the area, because it's wrong.
You were telling us they're bringing the gas ashore through a high pressure pipeline. Now, what would happen if that ever blew up? Of course, they'll tell you it would never happen, but they said BP would never happen either.
That's right. That's what I've just been saying, Sandy. If it does blow up, we'll say in Broadhaven or surroundings of that area where we're fishing, like with all the raw materials coming in, the raw gas coming in, and all that comes in with it, mercury being one of them, you know, and lead and cadmium and all that. That's all dispersed into Broadhaven, in that area. That's the fishing finished like.
But that's also going through people's farmland and right next to their homes. What if it blew up on shore?
If it blows up on shore like this.
I understand they give you a wonderful warning when the explosion is going to happen.
30 seconds.
30 seconds, so you have to be on the Irish Olympic track team in order to get away from the pipeline.
That's right, it's too close to people's homes, like it's too close. It's in the middle of the parish, it's in the wrong place.
The refinery will be cleaning and refining all this gas and all these chemicals that you mentioned. What happens then? I mean, does anybody, I'm sure they have. By the way, I'm really, really impressed when you talk to people over there who did the same kind of schooling that I did, very, very basic, and they can tell you about pipes, sizes, pressures, gases, all this off the top of their head. They don't even have to think twice. So I'm sure they know exactly what's going to happen in this refinery, which is even a huge problem. Down the road, all these gases brought in, and all whatever has to be mixed in. That's the thing with fracking here.
That's right. Well, we're going to have fracking in Ireland now. They're starting to do studies and this, that, and the other. The buy-in will come later.
Yeah, and you're listening.
Bribing, as I call it.
You're listening to Radio Free Éireann, and with us in the studio, all the way from County Mayo, is Pat O'Donnell, and he's in a documentary called The Pipe. He's with an organization called Shelltosea. If you type it in or Google it in anywhere, you will be able to see it come up. You'll see the trailer for the movie. It's called The Pipe, but the organization is Shelltosea, and Pat O'Donnell is here with us, and we've been covering his plight for many years here on Radio Free Éireann. If we couldn't get him on, we'd have Maura Harrington on and be discussing what's going on. So, Pat, has any actual gas arrived off the coast yet? Has that happened? And when it does get to the refinery, where is the gas then going from there?
Yeah, no gas, no gas yet. Shell and the oil companies, you know, their partners, Statoil and that, they were supposed to have gas to Irish homes and Irish industries in 2003. So due to the protests and, you know, and the delays, this, that and the other, it looks like now it'll be another 2 years before it be finished, if it ever does. I don't know what's going on.
And then you have the wonderful thing that these companies will be charging Irish houses for their own energy and for their own resources.
No, they won't, Sean. They're getting it free.
No.
No, they're getting that gas free all over Mayo, Galway, and Wisconsin.
Well, if you
know
read the
that.
Onion newspaper, maybe that might happen, but
Well,
in real
you know.
life, they'll be
No,
charging.
it's not our gas to begin with. You see,
Oh,
if it was our gas, maybe we could give it a free to the poor or something. But
it's not your gas now.
It's not our gas now. No. The politicians, corrupt politicians, made sure of that. They gave it all away. Like I said before, you know, it was all given away at the stroke of a pen. So the oil companies can do whatever they want to with it. They can export it. They can sell it at the full market rate, the full market price, back to the Irish people, the people that owned it in the first place, gave it away to them and buy it back at full market price. That's what's happening here.
That one encouraging thing, I don't know if you know what happened in Puerto Rico. They were planning to run a gas pipeline all the way across the island, and they beat it. They've closed it down, it's not happening. So if it happened in Puerto Rico, maybe it can happen in Mayo.
It might happen in Ireland yet when people realise like that there's a lot at stake here, because definitely we could have a different island. We could have a different Ireland if
all these
if
assets.
we had these assets. Yeah.
All these assets,
own
you know. Your answer is there. Forced immigration, closing hospitals, this pension funds. I mean, it's unbelievable. And there it is, sitting off the shore.
And isn't there now a new find that was found off the coast of Cork? I think something that had
Dublin
to do
too.
with
Dublin, Dalkey, just off Dalkey, just off, you know, with all the wealth there,
They will be bringing in the line
Bond
there.
and all these gang, the U2. So that probably never happened there yet.
It's just amazing that actually they've gotten away with it. Now, is it something that I believe it was Derek Warfield said that he met people over here that, like, you know, be my age, that immigrated from Ireland. Their kids are more into the Irish question than them because they brought a fear with them from Ireland that is still with them, like, shush, don't talk about that. I found that when you're talking about Shelltosea or a lot of things in Ireland. Sometimes you have to come to America to find out what's going on in Ireland. And this giveaway, how many people in Ireland really know, but I've seen the big signs and all, but why do they close their eyes to it?
Don't know. It's very hard to figure out. You see, the state keeps it, you know, like I said,
Tight.
we're criminalised. We have got, you know, in Irish papers we're put down as bad people.
Oh,
but
yeah,
all
yeah.
we're doing is protesting for our rights and looking for our rights. That's all we're doing. If that's wrong,
But how the
Okay.
control? Is it because most people work for the government? If you have a job, you keep your mouth shut.
that's the way, yeah. That's
It's-
the way.
most
Exactly.
people, 85% of the people work for some government somewhere down the county council, Dublin, whatever.
But Pat, RTE, the national radio program, was Dave interviewing you like this?
Yeah, interviewing me all right a lot, but a lot of it cut in when it's going to be all pre-recorded, you see, Sandy, so you get nothing live. If you did get anything live, like John there played something earlier on about Sandy when he gets onto RTE. They cut him off and he's getting into
But
That's
so,
what they do.
so what you're saying is people, ordinary people are not getting the accurate news about what's happening.
Oh, absolutely not, like, because, you know, you have people in places that owns the media, the government is talking to them and that, so it's...
And what's the local coverage, like the local Mayo radio stations and the local Mayo papers? How are they covering it? And are they taking any editorial stance on this? Or are they getting huge full-page ads, maybe from Shell, talking about how wonderful they are with nice, colorful pictures to make you feel
Correct,
good?
yes, a lot of advertising going on, all right, in the local papers and the local radio
Yeah, so
stations.
that influences the editorial policy.
So they're biased for starters, like, so you won't get fair time on it, no.
Well, just to go back to BAI, that's why we don't take advertising.
Well,
We're- we're-
the GAA also fall for that? Some of them took from Shell. I
They did,
understand
yeah.
some of the clubs.
That's correct, yeah.
That was the backbone. Did the GAA start in County Mayo?
So some of them,
And
a
they all-
lot of the footballers are working on the side. I wouldn't hold that against them, but it's the fact that they took sponsorship from...
So they'll be wearing the GAA players, will they be wearing Shell advertising on the GAA jerseys?
Not yet, that didn't happen yet.
But that's probably coming down the pipe.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And
They'll own, like, you know, that...
They
The whole
buy
of Ellis has the handout, you could say. You know, the peninsula of
Yeah, I know what it is.
Balmullet area. You know, it's all about begging, like, you know, they're setting up little groups, you know, for cleaning cemeteries and all this kind of stuff, and kindergartens, and looking for little grants from Shell, maybe 1,000 here, 10,000 there. So once they accept the money, then they're silenced, and they wouldn't be able to. If anything goes wrong, you have to keep your mouth closed.
Good investment for Shell.
Yeah.
But the whole country seems to, you know, hey, we know what it is, listening to Pat here and over the years, just incredible.
Yeah, it's unbelievable what's going on back there, right, too.
This fear is pervasive over there.
And you're listening to Radio Free Éireann, and with us in the studio is Pat O'Donnell, one of the activists from Shelltosea. He's featured in a documentary called The Pipe, and you can go to their website, Shelltosea. So where do we stand right now with Shelltosea, with your organization, with the protest group? What is going on right now? And how can people help? Can they donate at the website, or how does this all work?
Well, there's been local fundraisers, but we never went international or anything like that, no. How people could help, like, is, you know, go onto the website, go onto the Shelltosea website, see what's happening, and, you know, the pipe itself, the film, the documentary about it, anyone that haven't seen it, I think, can buy it online from, they get a link there from the Shelltosea site. So it's you know, it's worth looking at, because the truth is in it, and that's why, you know, we would never get what was in the pipe, we'd never get it across through the media, never.
Well, listen, Pat, we thank you for coming in and, you know, educating our audience out there about what's going on, about how a state government could get into deals where they're giving away the natural resources of a country only to have it sold back to them by the very companies that they gave it away. It is so outrageous, but you know, you hear about it in Nigeria, you hear about it particularly in South America with a lot of the countries down there, and how they're being ripped off by all these corporations that come in, exploit the area, pollute the area, and then they're gone. The lawsuits come, and the lawsuits never end because they have unlimited money to keep it going and keep appealing. And, you know, it's unfortunately that is the way of the world.